So why did she love you, only to destroy you shortly after? This question echoes through the minds of thousands of men who, without understanding why, find themselves emotionally torn apart by relationships with women who, at some point, seemed perfect, almost divine, until they became their own emotional executioners. What few know, and what Carl Jung dared to reveal, is that this isn't about malice, but about a much deeper, darker, and more archetypal unconscious dynamic. A psychological truth that society prefers not to discuss. Some women operate, unknowingly, from their own psychic shadow, and this has a devastating effect on men disconnected from their own soul. You've felt it, haven't you? That confusion when her love suddenly transforms into something that feels like emotional warfare, when the woman who once lifted you to heaven becomes the one dragging you through psychological hell. Today, you're about to understand why this happens, not through surface-level relationship advice, but through the profound depths of Jungian psychology that expose the hidden forces driving these destructive patterns. The pain you've experienced isn't random. It's not because you weren't good enough. It's because you've been caught in an ancient dance between shadows, yours and hers, playing out unconscious scripts written long before either of you were born. At the core of the feminine psyche dwell forces that transcend logic and rationality. Jung described this as the realm of archetypes, invisible structures that shape thoughts, emotions, and behaviors. You need to understand this. Every woman carries within herself both the Great Mother, nurturing, healing, welcoming, and her shadow face, the devouring mother, the one who suffocates, manipulates, nullifies, and emotionally destroys. This polarity is governed by an essential component of the feminine soul, the shadow. Everything she rejects in herself, but inevitably projects onto others, especially onto the man she chooses to love. Think about it. Have you ever noticed how the very qualities she once adored in you suddenly become the things she attacks most viciously? This isn't coincidence. This is shadow projection in action. When a woman doesn't confront her own shadow, her instincts for control, manipulation, destructive seduction, and unconscious desire for emotional dominance, she unconsciously seeks in the man a mirror to discharge her repressed psychic content. You become the screen upon which she projects everything she cannot face within herself, and here the hidden key reveals itself. The more disconnected from your own anima, your inner feminine soul, you are, the more vulnerable you become to being sucked into the magnetic field of the unintegrated feminine shadow. Your unconscious wounds call to her unconscious shadow, creating a psychological fusion that feels like love, but operates like mutual destruction. You see, Jung understood something revolutionary about the human psyche. He recognized that we all carry contrasexual elements within us. For you, as a man, this means you have an inner feminine aspect, the anima. This isn't about becoming feminine. It's about integrating the receptive, intuitive, emotional aspects of your psyche that society has taught you to suppress. When you reject these parts of yourself, when you remain unconscious of your own inner feminine, you become psychologically incomplete, and nature abhors a vacuum. That incompleteness makes you seek completion through external women. But here's the trap: you don't just attract their light, you magnetize their shadow. The devouring mother archetype operates through specific patterns. She initially appears as the perfect nurturer, showering you with attention, affection, and care that feels like the mothering you always craved. But slowly, insidiously, the dynamic shifts. The care becomes control. The attention becomes surveillance. The affection becomes a tool of manipulation. You've experienced this transformation, haven't you? The woman who once celebrated your independence suddenly needs to know where you are every moment. The one who admired your strength begins to undermine it through subtle criticisms and emotional manipulation. The lover who promised to be your sanctuary becomes the source of your deepest anxieties. This isn't because she's evil. It's because she's unconscious. Her own unexamined fears, her rejected aspects, her disowned power drives, they all get projected onto you. And if you're not conscious of your own shadow, if you haven't integrated your own anima, you'll not only accept these projections, you'll actually confirm them through your behavior. It's at this point that the devastating phenomenon emerges. The woman who first seemed to be your muse, Your inspiration slowly becomes your emotional executioner. She activates in you the wounds of rejection, inadequacy, humiliation, not by conscious choice, but because her own psyche instinctively seeks to balance its internal forces by projecting onto the man everything she fears, rejects, or doesn't want to see in herself. Picture this moment. You're in an argument with her, and suddenly you feel like a small boy being scolded by an all-powerful mother. Your adult self disappears, and you're transported back to every moment of childhood shame and inadequacy. This isn't accidental. Her shadow has found your shadow, and they're dancing a dance of mutual destruction. You, in turn, blind to your own soul, anima, and disconnected from your own psychic center, surrender without realizing it to the shadow maternal function of that woman, seeking love but receiving control, seeking shelter but being drained, seeking union but being emotionally dismembered. The truth cuts deeper than you might want to admit. You're not just a victim here. Your own unintegrated shadow material, your disowned aggression, your rejected vulnerability, your unexamined need for maternal care, these all play into the dynamic. You become complicit in your own destruction because you're operating from unconscious patterns just as much as she is. Here, the forbidden truth reveals itself. It's not she who destroys you. It's your own shadow, reflected in hers, that consumes you. You're looking at a mirror, but you think you're looking through a window. Every accusation she makes carries a grain of truth about your own rejected aspects. Every manipulation she employs works because it hooks something unconscious within you. This is why the same patterns repeat with different women. This is why you find yourself in the same emotional wasteland, relationship after relationship. It's not bad luck. It's not that all women are the same. It's that your unconscious patterns are calling forth the same shadow dynamics over and over again. The devouring mother doesn't just want to control you. She wants to consume you, to make you part of herself, to eliminate your independence and merge you back into the psychological womb. And part of you, the part that never fully individuated, the part that still seeks the all-accepting maternal embrace, actually wants this. This is the horrifying truth Jung exposed. We are often complicit in our own psychological destruction. Jung was clear and incisive. What you do not bring to consciousness becomes your destiny. The man who doesn't integrate his own anima, who doesn't recognize his internal feminine aspects, his sensitivity, his intuition, his emotional depth, remains eternally hostage to projection. He will seek in the external feminine what he refuses to find within himself. Think about your patterns. How many times have you fallen for a woman who initially seemed to complete you, only to later feel like she was draining your very life force? How many times have you blamed the woman for being crazy or destructive without examining what in you was attracting and enabling these dynamics? The real antidote isn't to protect yourself from women, nor to blame them, but to face your own shadow, to heal your own relationship with the internal feminine. This means doing the hard work of psychological integration. It means examining your relationship with your mother, understanding how her shadow may have shaped your expectations of all women. It means recognizing your own capacity for manipulation, control, and emotional violence, the very things you project onto women. You need to understand something crucial here. Every woman who has destroyed you was actually revealing something about your own unconscious. She was the messenger, not the message. The message was always about what you refused to see in yourself. That rage you felt when she criticized you, that's your shadow. That desperation when she pulled away, that's your unintegrated child self, still seeking the all-accepting mother. When you do this work, when you truly integrate your anima, something miraculous happens. You stop attracting women who carry heavy shadow material, or if you do encounter them, you're no longer susceptible to their unconscious manipulations. You can see the shadow dance beginning and choose not to participate. You become whole, sovereign, immune to unconscious manipulations, and capable of loving without losing yourself. You can engage with a woman's emotions without being drowned by them. You can witness her shadow without being consumed by it. You can love her darkness without being destroyed by it. But let me paint you a picture of what this actually looks like in real life. The integrated man doesn't walk around in some state of enlightened detachment. He feels deeply, perhaps more deeply than ever before. The difference is that he owns his feelings. When a woman triggers his wounds, he doesn't blame her or collapse into victimhood. He says, "Thank you for showing me where I still need to grow." He can hold space for a woman's chaos without being swept away by it. He can witness her projections without accepting them as truth. He can love her shadow without becoming its victim. Why? Because he's already met his own shadow. He's already danced with his own darkness. There's nothing she can show him about himself that he hasn't already seen. This is the forbidden truth that few have the courage to face, and those who ignore it pay the price with their own emotional sanity. But you who have read this far, you who have felt the resonance of these truths in your own experience, you have a choice. You can continue the unconscious dance, blaming women for your pain while remaining blind to your own shadow. Or you can embark on the hero's journey of psychological integration, facing your own depths, integrating your own feminine, and emerging as a man who cannot be destroyed because he has already faced and integrated his own destruction. The shadow work isn't easy. It requires you to look at parts of yourself you've spent a lifetime avoiding. It demands that you feel emotions you've been taught to suppress. It insists that you acknowledge vulnerabilities you've been conditioned to deny. But on the other side of this work lies freedom, real freedom, not from women, but from the unconscious patterns that have kept you trapped in cycles of psychological destruction. I want you to imagine for a moment what your life could look like once you've done this work. Imagine meeting a woman and being able to see clearly, not through the fog of projection and childhood wounds, but with the clarity of consciousness. Imagine being able to love without losing yourself, to be intimate without being consumed, to be vulnerable without being destroyed. Imagine no longer fearing the feminine shadow because you've integrated your own. Imagine being so grounded in your own psychological wholeness that no amount of projection, manipulation, or shadow material can knock you off center. This isn't a fantasy. This is the reality available to any man willing to do the work. But here's what Jung didn't tell you, or perhaps what society doesn't want you to know. When you do this work, you don't just transform yourself. You become a force of transformation for the women in your life. Your integrated presence, your refusal to play unconscious games, your ability to see and name shadow dynamics, these become invitations for her to meet her own shadow. The integrated man doesn't need to fix, save, or change women. His very presence becomes a mirror that reflects back their own wholeness or their own fragmentation. And paradoxically, this is the greatest gift you can give to the feminine. The opportunity to see herself clearly, perhaps for the first time. Now that you've seen into the deep unconscious of female behavior, and more importantly, into your own, how does this change your perspective? What patterns are you recognizing in your own life? Which relationships suddenly make sense when viewed through this lens? Share your personal experiences in the comments below. Your story might be the key that unlocks understanding for another man trapped in these same dynamics. And I want to hear specifically, what was the moment you realized you were caught in a shadow dance? What was the woman reflecting back to you about yourself? Don't hold back. Your vulnerability here could save another man years of suffering. Like this video if it resonated with you, if it spoke to experiences you've had but couldn't quite articulate. Subscribe to explore deeper psychological truths that society doesn't want you to understand. Ring the notification bell, because we're going deep into territories most channels won't touch. And don't miss our previous videos where we've explored other hidden aspects of the male-female dynamic through the lens of Jungian psychology. If this video hits you hard, you need to watch our video on the mother complex, why you keep attracting the same woman. It's linked right here. That video will show you the specific childhood patterns that set up these destructive dynamics. Remember, consciousness is your greatest weapon against unconscious destruction. The more you understand these hidden forces, the more power you have to transform your relationships and your life. The journey into your own depths isn't just about avoiding pain. It's about becoming the integrated, whole man you were always meant to be. The question isn't whether you'll face your shadow. The question is whether you'll face it consciously, with courage and intention, or whether you'll continue to meet it unconsciously, projected onto every woman who triggers your deepest wounds. What shadow will you face today? The choice and the power is yours.